Hello and welcome back in. My name is John Davis and I'm the Director of Field Operations for Major League Football, or MLFB. Today we have the distinct pleasure of hosting Coach Bill Conley, the second of our coaches to be announced. Coach Conley will be one of the head coaches for our inaugural season as we get cleats in the grass in 2022. Coach Conley, welcome aboard.
Thanks, John. Great being here.
Well, listen, I want to give each of our coaches, as we do these interviews, an opportunity to kind of introduce themselves. Obviously, you having spent a tremendous amount of time in and around the Ohio State program, being an alum and an assistant for all those years. A lot of people in that region know who you are, but other folks may not. So I want to give you a little bit of a chance to tell what your experience bring and what you bring to the table in terms of being a head coach in Major League Football.
Well, first of all, like you said, John, I've been around the business a long time. Played at Ohio State under Woody Hayes. And then when the high school ranks, was actually a head coach at 4 different high schools in the state of Ohio, then moved back to Ohio State as assistant coach, and where I stayed for 17 years. And I coached for Earl Bruce, for John Cooper, and for Jim Tressel. And then after that, worked for ESPN for a while, and then took the head coaching job at Ohio Dominican, which was an NAI program, but was jumping up to Division II. And we took that program from scratch, and in a very short time, I was head coach here 6 years. We made the playoffs several times, and was one of the top Division II teams in the country. So, and I'm really anxious and excited to, get into Major League Football, because this is a chance to look at football from even a different aspect, from the actually the premier level of football, professional football.
And, when we talk about Major League Football specifically, talk a little bit about why it's important that we get a developmental league like Major League Football off the ground in order to get these players ready for the next level.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, because with the NFL, Europe's not around anymore. And so there really has been a void there. And the thing that coaches will tell you constantly as they came into the universities I was at, they said a lot of the players, the majority of players come out of college just aren't prepared yet. And that might be for physically, they might not be prepared in terms of the skills and fundamentals needed. The mental aspect of the game is so important. And the other one, which is very simple, didn't have enough playing experience against professional athletes. So that is a great thing for us to fill that void and let these players have a chance to, really live their dreams of playing at the professional level.
Do you think that the style of play at the college level tends to contribute to what you just talked about, with players not being ready because they're kind of pigeonholed into a specific role at their position?
Well, I don't know if that has a lot to do with it. I think it has something to do with it. But really, the college game to the professional game is closer than it's ever been. I mean, college was first really put the quarterbacks back in shotgun or pistol positions, formations. And the professional level is pretty much under center until just a few years ago. So, that's part of it. But I think the main thing is just they aren't physically ready to play the game in some of the skills. And I think, as a coach, the one thing I demanded of all my coaches, assistant coaches, they had to be great teachers. And I consider myself a pretty good teacher of the game of the skills and fundamentals. And the other part of it, I think you really got to be able to get into the head of your athletes the one thing I've been known as a people person, I was a recruiter and a national recruiter. And pretty much if you can make the players believe in your system, believe in you, believe in the assistant coaches, then I think you have a great chance of being successful. So even though it's a professional level, I think that type of closeness between coaching staff and players will help them in their maturity and their confidence when they go to the next level.
Let's dig into that a little bit. With your experience, not only as an assistant coach, but looking back on your playing days and then all those years as a recruiter as well, what do you think if I were a player that had been drafted by your team and I'm brand new coming in and you want to kind of articulate what I should expect of you as the head coach, what kind of things should I be looking for?
Well, I think, first of all, you'd want to know I've got your back, that I'm there for you. You're in the coaching profession for a long time, not for yourself. You're there for the players to help them accomplish, again, their goals and their dreams. I playing for Woody Hayes, and a lot of people really didn't know what Woody was like. They thought he was this tyrannical, crazy coach and stuff like that. But Woody was a great person. Now, he did demand the very best out of each player and each coach. And that's something that I've carried with me throughout the years. So we will demand great effort, great execution, be the best you possibly can be, and believe in yourself and believe in your teammates, and you have a chance of being successful. And I think that's the thing that we can do to help these guys out.
We talk about developmental as a label for the league. It doesn't just apply to the players. I mean, we look at, we have brought in the 4 coaches that are going to be coming in this first season are all very experienced on different levels and with different paths to get where they are. But it's important, I think, that there's a mentorship role going on for those assistant coaches and interns as well. How do you see that in terms of your role as well as your, coordinators and things like that, bringing younger coaches along as part of this league as well?
Yeah, there's no greater compliment for a head coach than to have his assistant coaches go on and be successful. I mean, that's very important. Again, playing for Coach Hayes, his assistants were some of the great coaches of all time. Lou Holtz, you talk about Earl Bruce, you talk about guys that could coach with them, and they went on to have great careers themselves. So I think that's an important part of it. Because again, you're there for the players and your assistant coaches, not for yourself. And you want to help them have a chance of being the best they can be at their profession. And the other part of that too is a lot of coaches today don't go through the ranks. They start off as graduate assistants at the college level, or they start off in some type of capacity as an intern in the NFL. And they miss some of that camaraderie with other people, with players and with other coaches and things like that. So I think we can help them understand what it takes to be a complete coach.
With regard to what the players get out of this from a developmental standpoint, how do you see the benefit to the players rolling out as we go through the season? What would a player be looking for in terms of what either he's going to learn or what he's going to do on the field to help set him up for success and hopefully get some film to make him competitive to go to the next level?
Well, I think first of all, you've got to develop the complete athlete, and it's not the techniques and fundamentals and skills. Not only that, it's also how to watch film. We have one thing I always had my players have become students of the game of football, and so they had to understand it just like the coaches. The more you can understand the game at every position on the football field, the better chance you have. I've had the advantage in my coaching careers, especially at Ohio State. I coached practically every position, both sides of the ball, including special teams. So I've had experience in nearly every level or every position that's associated with the game. So I think by sharing those things, experiences, and also talk about some of the athletes you've had a pleasure to coach and what made them special. What made, for example, Mike Vrabel play defensive end for me? What made him a special guy? Chris Spielman played linebacker for me. Same thing. Mike Nugent, great place kicker. Same thing. So I think by sharing the experiences and sharing what it takes to be the top athlete at your position is very important. And those guys need to have that type of knowledge of the game.
Do you think that having seen all that through your lens and the guys that you have coached that went on to play, is there a consistent element or two to those guys' games that set them apart from the good but not necessarily great players that you could identify early on?
Exactly. I'll tell you what the two main ones are, John. Number one is work ethic. Nobody worked any harder than Chris Spielman and Mike Vrabel. Ben Hartsock, who played for him at tight end, played 11 years in the NFL. Mike Nugent, those guys had great work ethics. And the second thing, they believed in themselves. They had great confidence. You couldn't tell them they were a bad player because they weren't. They believed in themselves. They had a complete commitment to the program, to themselves. And those things are common among the great ones.
When you think back to those great players you just described, how do you think you and your coaches need to come across and develop those relationships with those great players to build that trust in them that, hey, if you do what I say, I'm setting you up for success?
Yeah, they got to believe in the system. They got to believe in what you're teaching. And I think feedback constantly of the things they can do better or to improve on. And they see it in a game film. They sit in a situation, pressure situation, how they respond, and say, that's how it's done, just like that. And pretty soon that open line communication really keeps, you have to be a mentor and you have to be a coach, but also you've got to be a guy that a player doesn't have any problem coming to you, talk about anything. And the closer that relationship is, the better chance of success for everybody.
In many cases, even at lower levels of high school and college, it's still a lot about feedback from those great players that help coaches improve for themselves, for the team, and for those individual athletes.
That's exactly right. I can think of a number of times that one thing I always had my players give scouting reports to their position group. And they'd have to watch the film, and they would pick up some things maybe we as coaches didn't always pick up, something about a stance or alignment and things like that. So again, by having them part of that process really brings a team close together.
What do you say from a recruiting standpoint, from your experience all those years of getting the great players to come to Ohio State? What do you say to those players that, here's what you can do to best prepare yourself before you come into the system and learn about which team you're on and who your coaches are?
Well, first of all, you have to be in top physical shape. I mean, if you're not ready to go physically, you have no chance. And it has to happen pretty quick. But the great thing about Major League Football is we are going to give those guys a chance that if they need to go to the NFL at any time they get called up, they can go. And so, we're there for them. We're to help them. And I think that you teach guys several things like when you're on the field, I don't care if it's offense or defense, you got to give great effort every play. And I like to tell a story about when I recruited a young man out of a real small school in Ohio. And the reason is between him and two other guys. And the reason I finally chose him, even though it's from a smaller school, smaller program, is that guy gave great effort every play. His team was ahead 36-0 late in the game, and the other team finally scores. It's going to be 36-6 or 36-7. And this guy was a defensive lineman, broke through and blocked the extra point. Now, how many guys are going to give that kind of effort when you've already got the game won, seconds left? And I said, that guy's something special. Of course, we took him. He was part of our national championship game the year we beat Miami. And he went on to, he got drafted by Buffalo Bills and played in the NFL for a while. So if you do the little things like that, great things can happen. When you go up the different levels, you go to high school to college to the pros, the competition is more severe the higher up you go. It's going to be tougher and tougher. And you got to realize, for example, if you come out of college and go to a pro level, the guys there are better than the best player you ever went against for the most part. So you've got to take your game to step up the next level also to be able to compete. And that's the one thing that is so important as I talk about not only physical, but the mental part of it. You got to believe in yourself and you got to pay the price to reach your dream.
The film part, you've talked about the film study and how a player can prepare, but what about the exposure, both with, being seen during a game, but also that game film and practice film? How important does that play into what we're trying to do from a developmental standpoint to help these guys take the next step?
Well, it's extremely important because the one thing about it, I always told my players is that a professional coach, when they look at somebody, they look at every snap. I mean, pro scouts came into our colleges and they watch every snap from kids for their whole career. So you can't take a play off. The eye and sky don't lie. So you have got to make sure that every play that you have, you give that great effort. And coaches can see that. They can grade your techniques and performance, but also the pursuit angle you take on defense, for example. If you're the backside of a play on offense, you get a crossfield to get an extra block. I mean, those are things coaches look for, the complete player. And another area which you can really show that is special teams. A lot of guys get on film and show their abilities on special teams. They break into it at that level, and that gives them a chance.
Coach, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us about yourself and about the game. Excited about Major League Football kicking off this year. So I want to make sure that I respect your time, and we'll get this cranked out and get it out for folks to see here pretty soon. But thank you very much, Coach Bill Conley, for taking the time to sit down and chat with us.
Thanks, John. And MLFB is going to be fantastic for the fans and for the players.
I agree. And I'm excited to be part of it, Coach. Thanks a lot.
Bye.